I never imagined I'd become the kind of husband who questioned every little thing. For 8 years, I trusted my wife, Emily, completely. We had built a comfortable life together in a quiet suburb outside Chicago. We weren't rich, but we had a nice home, two dogs, stable careers, and what everyone else described as the perfect marriage. At least, that's what I believed. The first sign was so small that I almost laughed at myself for noticing it. Emily had always left her phone lying around the house. Kitchen counter, coffee table, bedroom nightstand. Then, suddenly, it never left her hand. If she went to the bathroom, it came with her. If she took the trash outside, it came with her. Even when we watched TV together, she'd place it face down beside her. One evening, I jokingly asked, expecting a call from the president? She smiled. No, you're just paranoid. I apologized immediately. Looking back now, I wish I hadn't. Over the next few weeks, little changes started piling up. She changed her phone password, started wearing perfume to work even on casual Fridays, bought expensive new clothes she never wore around me, joined a gym despite always saying she hated exercising. Whenever I asked about any of it, she'd sigh dramatically. You're making problems where there aren't any. You've become really insecure lately. Those words stuck with me. Maybe she was right. Maybe stress from work was making me imagine things. I convinced myself to stop asking questions. But my gut refused to stay quiet. One Friday evening, Emily told me she was having drinks with coworkers after work. Probably won't be home until 11. No problem, I said. Around 9:30, I decided to surprise her by bringing dessert to the restaurant she'd mentioned. When I arrived, the hostess looked confused. We don't have any reservation under that company. I showed her the text Emily had sent. She checked again. Nothing. I stood outside staring at my phone. Maybe they changed restaurants. Maybe they canceled. I texted Emily. No reply. An hour later, she came home carrying a takeout coffee. Tough night. I asked casually. She nodded. Yeah, we were at the office the whole time. Office? 5 hours earlier, she'd specifically told me they were meeting at a restaurant. When I reminded her, she frowned. I never said restaurant. Then she laughed. You're remembering things wrong. I actually questioned my own memory until I looked back at the text. It clearly said the restaurant's name. The next morning, the message had disappeared. She deleted it from both our conversation and recently learned how to use disappearing messages. When I asked why, she rolled her eyes. You seriously need therapy. For the first time in our marriage, I stopped believing my own reality. A month later, Emily became strangely protective of one room in the house, our guest bedroom. She claimed she was turning it into a home office. The door stayed locked. Whenever I walked in unexpectedly, she'd immediately shut her laptop. One Sunday afternoon, while cleaning, I accidentally opened the closet inside that room. She practically sprinted across the hallway. What are you doing? I was just vacuuming. You don't need to clean in here. Her reaction seemed completely over the top. That night, I barely slept. The next few weeks felt like living with a stranger. She smiled less, started criticizing everything I did. The way I folded laundry, how loudly I chewed, even how I laughed during movies. Nothing seemed good enough anymore. Friends noticed it too. One of them quietly asked me over lunch, "Everything okay between you two?" I lied. Yeah, just normal marriage stuff. Inside, I felt like I was slowly losing my mind. Then came the business trip. Emily was supposed to spend 3 days in Seattle for work. She kissed me goodbye Monday morning. I'll miss you. I smiled and waved as she drove away. That evening, I called her hotel. The receptionist couldn't find a reservation under her name. Maybe the company booked under another employee. That's what I told myself. Again. On Tuesday afternoon, my phone buzzed. It was our neighbor. Hey, I think someone is inside your garage. My heart skipped. I rushed home expecting a burglary. Instead, Emily's car was parked inside. I opened the front door. Silence. No one answered. I checked every room. Empty. Then I noticed something strange. Her favorite weekend shoes were missing. So was the large travel suitcase she'd supposedly taken to Seattle. Yet none of her work clothes were gone. It didn't make sense. I searched the house for clues, feeling guilty the entire time. That's when I noticed something odd in the guest bedroom. The bookshelf wasn't sitting flush against the wall. It had been moved recently. There were fresh scratch marks on the hardwood floor. Curious, I carefully pushed it aside. Behind it was a tiny wall safe. I'd lived in this house for 6 years and had never seen it before. It wasn't there when we bought the place. Emily had installed it without ever telling me. I tried opening it. I stood there staring at the metal door for several minutes. What could possibly require a hidden safe inside our own house? Jewelry? Cash? Important documents? Or something she didn't want me to see? I convinced myself to stop snooping. I pushed the bookshelf back into place and walked away. But as I reached the hallway, I noticed something even stranger. A faint vibration. Buzz, buzz. It wasn't coming from the safe. It was coming from inside the wall behind the bookshelf. I froze. There was another sound. A notification chime. A phone. Hidden somewhere behind the wall. And in that moment, every excuse I'd made for the past 6 months collapsed all at once. I stood there in complete silence. The vibration came again. Buzz, buzz. There was definitely a phone hidden behind the wall. My hands were shaking as I moved the bookshelf one more time. Running my fingers along the paneling, I noticed one section didn't feel quite right. I pressed on it gently. Click. A narrow compartment popped open. Inside was an older smartphone connected to a charger. It wasn't one of ours. At least, not one I knew about. The lock screen lit up before I even touched it. 3 new messages. The wallpaper wasn't a picture of our family. It was a photo of Emily smiling with another man. His arm was around her waist. They looked comfortable, like they'd been together for a long time. My stomach dropped. I guessed a few passwords. Nothing. Then I remembered the date Emily always used for everything, our wedding anniversary. The phone unlocked. I almost wished it hadn't. There were months of messages. Thousands of them. The man's name was Ryan. The earliest conversations were harmless enough. Complaints about work. Jokes. Coffee breaks. Then the tone changed. I miss you already. I wish I could wake up next to you every morning. I hate pretending around him. My vision blurred. Him was me. I kept scrolling. There were hotel reservations. Photos together. Videos from weekends she had claimed were work conferences. Every business trip. Every late-night meeting. Every girls' weekend. It had all been a lie. The hidden phone wasn't just for secrecy. It was an entire second life. I wanted to scream. Instead, I quietly took pictures of everything with my own phone. Every conversation, every receipt, every reservation, every photo. Then I placed the phone exactly where I'd found it. I needed to think. That evening, Emily came home carrying groceries. She smiled. Missed me. I looked at her face and wondered how someone could lie so effortlessly. I did, I answered. She kissed my cheek. For the first time, I felt nothing. Over the next week, I said almost nothing about what I'd found. Instead, I met with a lawyer. He gave me one piece of advice. Don't confront her until you've secured copies of everything. So that's exactly what I did. I quietly copied bank statements, insurance records, mortgage documents, retirement accounts. Then something unexpected happened. While reviewing our finances, I discovered thousands of dollars missing. Small transfers. 500 here, 800 there. Always labeled as household expenses. Over 2 years, the total exceeded $37,000. The money had gone into an account I didn't recognize. The lawyer smiled grimly. That's useful. He hired a private investigator to verify everything. Within 10 days, the investigator returned with a folder. Inside were photographs. Emily and Ryan holding hands downtown, checking into hotels, leaving restaurants together, even attending a wedding where she had told everyone she was traveling for work. The investigator also discovered Ryan knew she was married. He wasn't being deceived. They were both fully aware. That hurt more than I expected. I decided I didn't want revenge. I wanted clarity. So I planned one final dinner. Emily thought it was to celebrate our anniversary. She wore the same blue dress I'd bought her years earlier. Halfway through dinner, she smiled. I've been thinking we should take a vacation together. I nodded. I agree. When dessert arrived, I placed a small gift box on the table. She laughed. You didn't have to get me anything. She opened it. Inside wasn't jewelry. It was the hidden phone. Her smile disappeared instantly. For several seconds, she didn't move. Then she whispered, "Where did you find this?" "I think you already know." She looked around the restaurant before leaning closer. "I can explain." "No," I said calmly. "You've been explaining for 2 years." Tears filled her eyes. "It wasn't supposed to happen. It happened hundreds of times. I was going to tell you." "When?" She had no answer. Instead, she reached for my hand. I pulled mine away. "I know about Ryan." Silence. "I know about the money." More silence. "I know there was never a Seattle business trip." She broke down crying. People at nearby tables started looking over. "I never wanted to hurt you." I took a slow breath. "Yet somehow you found the time." I stood up, placed cash on the table for my meal, and walked toward the exit. Behind me, I heard her calling my name. I didn't turn around. The divorce took several months. Because I documented everything carefully, the financial issues were addressed during the settlement. The hidden account became impossible to deny. Emily eventually admitted to the affair. Ryan disappeared from her life only weeks later. Apparently, once the excitement of secrecy was gone, so was their relationship. Funny how that works. A year has passed since the divorce. Life isn't perfect. Healing took time. Trust took even longer. But my home is peaceful again. I sleep through the night. I don't question my own memory anymore. And I no longer apologize for listening to my instincts. The hardest lesson wasn't discovering the hidden phone. It was realizing that constant accusations of being insecure were never about my behavior. They were meant to stop me from asking questions. If someone consistently makes you doubt your own reality instead of answering honest questions, pay attention. Trust isn't built by demanding blind faith. It's built through honesty, consistency, and respect. Sometimes the biggest red flag isn't the lie itself. It's being told you're crazy for noticing it. The hidden phone didn't destroy my marriage. It simply revealed that it had already been destroyed long before I found it.